Welcome to our Yoga Sutras practice and discussion. If you've been struggling with a too busy mind, a disturbed mind, a dull mind, a distracted mind, today's discussion is going to be perfect for you. We'll be addressing Yoga Sutras 1.4 and 1.5. We'll begin with a meditation that helps you to understand the 5 qualities of mind, ranging from disturbed to dull, distracted, to one-pointed and lucid. And so as we get underway, we'll meditate and then we'll go through the sutras, and I anticipate that you're going to have a more quiet and restful mind as a result. Let's get to class. Welcome to our practice with the Yoga Sutras. Today we'll be discussing Yoga Sutras 1.4 and 1.5. Let's begin with a quiet seat, reflecting on Yoga Sutra 1.2, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. You're welcome to close your eyes, lengthen up through your spine, and drop down into your hips and into your pelvis. Allow yourself to arrive more and more in the present moment. And I'd like you to picture your mind as if it were a lake, and you're looking at the surface of the lake, asking, is it very clear? Is it muddy? Is it very rippled? Does it have a lot of activity? But as you gaze at this lake, gaze at it inside, without making any particular changes, simply observing. And as you observe the surface of the water, imagine it becoming more clear and more reflective. And as you imagine that, relax your thinking mind to welcome the possibility that the surface of the water becomes clear, reflective, very still, and so too does your mind. Now it's possible that your mind comes into this practice today, and there are many jet skis on the surface of the lake. You are experiencing a disturbed mind, perhaps a very busy mind. We call that the monkey mind, kshipta, the monkey mind. Or perhaps as you come in, your mind is very dull. Maybe the water's very cloudy or muddy, and there's no reflection on top. And the dull mind is called mudha, the dullness of the mind. Or perhaps your mind is more average in its distractions, neither disturbed nor dull, but simply distracted. Vikshipta, a mind like a dragonfly, bouncing from one thing to the next. Now, if the surface of the water has jet skis and motorboats and noise, ripples, disturbances, it's very hard for it to reflect the sky above it or the trees nearby. They will not be seen in the surface of the water. If the mind or the lake are very muddy, we will also not see a reflection on the surface of the water. If the mind is just averagely distracted, dragonflies, mosquitoes, little frogs and fish doing their thing, we may see some reflectivity on the surface of the water. This gives us hope. So as you're watching the water surface now, imagine it becomes yet again more clear, more reflective, And as you imagine this, you're required to set aside any other distractions. This is called ekagra, or one-pointed mind. And in time, as you rest in the quietude of the reflectivity of the water, the quietude of the mind, you will find yourself moving to nirodha, lucid mind. It's described in these terms. And in the lucid mind, that reflection is felt intimately. The water is not disturbed by the clouds overhead, nor by the flight of birds reflected on the surface of the water. The reflection simply mirrors what is in the sky, in the trees, and so on. And this is what is meant when we say yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the state in which the vrittis, the chitta vrittis, have quieted down. They have ceased to disturb us. They have ceased in causing dullness. They are not sources of distraction. And through some one-pointedness, we have arrived at the place where the mind stuff is not a bother, and the reflection of consciousness comes through. As we embark on our studies, let's join the hands together in Anjali Mudra. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaijakena Yopakarotam pravaramuninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi Yogena chittasya padena vacham Malam sharirasya cha vaijakena Yopakarotam pravaramuninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi Om We bow our heads in gratitude that Sri Patanjali gave us the teachings on grammar and speech, on the sutras for the mind, and on the medicine for the body. Our physical health supports our mind to do the studies, and understanding grammar and speech supports both our inner experience and our relationships. So thank you. So in this meditation, we're exploring the possibility of yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the experience of the chitta vrittis settling down, nirodha, ceasing or abating, so that we experience the unity of yoga, the unified state of yoga. Now, nirodha can be translated as to restrict or to cease. And yet many people feel that ceasing the activities of their mind or being able to restrain or restrict those is very difficult. And in fact, it is. So we could consider nirodha as when you're creating trenches in your garden for irrigation. And as you create that trench, you need it to be directing the water to a certain destination. And so that direction, or that holding container of the barriers, the boundaries, the container of the irrigation system, maybe it's the mud you build up there, for example, that is one of the ways we can translate nirodha. So we are temporarily, at least during meditation and during our studies, we're doing our best to restrain or restrict the flow of our attention to consciousness or to mental stillness, to yoga, and to understanding our relationship to the vrittis so that we aren't so easily susceptible to them. So yoga's chitta vritti nirodha might mean for us, as we direct the mind with some restraint, some healthy restraint, not to be hither and thither, not to be succumbing to the mosquitoes and the jet skis and the mud in the water. As we direct the mind, we discover that there is a unified state of yoga. And then, tada drastu svarupe vastanam. And then, tada drastu svarupe avastanam. And then we are established avastanam in our true nature, our true form, svarupe, and we experience ourselves as the seer, drastu. What happens in Yoga Sutra 1.4 then is that Patanjali says, that is possible, that is yoga, and at all other times something else is happening. And what he means by that, at all other times, itaratra, at all other times, the chitta vrittis, we identify with them. We think of ourselves as our thoughts, or as the mosquitoes, the jet skis, and so on. So when we say vritti sarupyam itaratra, that is Yoga Sutra 1.4, we are basically saying, otherwise we're identified with the fluctuations of the mind. At all other times we are confused. We are confused about our true nature. We don't know what that is because the thoughts are ever coming and going, and we mistake them to be us. So we say it like this, vritti sarupam itaratra. So we'll chant this together, one word at a time, and then one whole sutra. Vritti, 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 sarupyam, 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 itaratra, 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 vritti sarupyam itaratra, vritti sarupyam itaratra, vritti sarupyam itaratra, vritti sarupyam itaratra. And notice the quality of your mind after chanting. In the next sutra, we learn that there are 5 forms of vrittis. So there are only 5 forms for us to know about and to navigate. That's a blessing. But these 5 forms of vrittis can cause those 5 states of mind. That is disturbed, dull, distracted, one-pointed, and lucid. And so insofar as you've got 5 forms of vrittis, I have 5 forms of kittens here. Here's one. Insofar as we have 5 forms of vrittis, and those can become 5 different qualities of mind, we really have exponential ways to be attached and distressed by our thoughts. So those 5 qualities of mind, we say kshipta is disturbed, mudha is dull, vikshipta is distracted, ekagra is one-pointed, and then lucid is described as nirodha. Right? We're in that lucid state because nirodha, we have ceased to be identified with our thoughts. Now, Sutra 1.5, we learn, okay, well, there's 5 forms of vrittis, and we should probably know this so that it can help us to understand ourselves. So, vrittayaha, panchatayaha, so vrittis, and then the number 5, panchatayaha, klishta, aklishta. These vrittis are either going to be deeply colored, klishta, or not colored. It's on a spectrum, of course. Deeply colored thoughts are what many of us are walking about with, but we don't realize it because we've been wearing the same densely colored sunglasses with different, let's say, stained glass windows on each sunglass, and we've been seeing the world through those lenses. And by the way, the world then, we interpret it how it sees us through those lenses as well. So how we see the world and how we imagine the world is seeing us is interpreted through these lenses. And that is something very important for us to understand, because as I look out and I see you and or others, or I see the world around me, I'm interpreting it through the lenses that might be deeply colored, klishta. And as I experience people seeing me, or the world, I experience it coming towards me, I'm interpreting that through these lenses also. So I interpret how you see me based on the lenses that I'm carrying. And then I might decide that my lenses are clear and accurate, and that could potentially lead to troubles in our relationships if I'm not in clear perception, if I'm in misperception. Those are forms of the vrittis, that is clear perception and misperception. And if that's occurring, I might strain our relationship. I might even strain the relationship that I have with myself. So this sutra tells us there are 5 forms. That's very important. Even more important in my world, being that I work in a trauma-informed yoga and therapy mode, it's even more important to know that whatever the vrittis are, they're either deeply colored, deeply conditioned, very saturated, or they're not deeply colored. The conditioning has been resolved. They're not deeply saturated. Okay, let's do one word at a time. Vrittayaha, 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 panchatayaha, 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 klishta, 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 aklishta, 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 aklishta. Now as a whole sutra. Vrittayaha panchataya klishta klishta. Vrittayaha panchataya klishta klishta. Vrittayaha panchataya klishta klishta. Vrittayaha panchataya klishta klishta. Well, may the vrittis fade, and may we also lessen the coloring of our remaining vrittis. May they become more translucent. So imagine the clear surface of the water. That is reflecting your mind. Consciousness being reflected. And you are the seer, the drastu. So when your vrittis are translucent, not saturated, not colored, when they have abated, when they're not bothersome, you too will rest in the seer, and you'll know your original form, your true form. Tada drastu svarupe vastanam. Tada drastu svarupe vastanam. Please raise your hands to your heart. Thank you very much for sharing your practice. May this be a blessing in your day. Namaste. Thank you for being here and joining in with this practice. If this was helpful to you, please don't forget to click the like button and use the comment section down below to ask any questions or leave any comments. I look forward to hearing from you there. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do that as well. It is helpful to us and motivating us to keep producing more content for you. And if understanding the Yoga Sutras in the context of yoga and in teaching public yoga classes or private yoga therapy classes, if that interests you, please check out our teacher training URL here across the bottom of the page. We'd be glad to hear from you. Namaste.